The first real decline in health I noticed, I was about 2007. I was 20 years old or so, 21 maybe. And I started getting very, very tired, just to the point where I could not go to class. I would get up, I would get ready, I'd put my backpack on, I'd sit down on the couch, like I'm just going to take a break for a second and then catch the bus to go to class, and I would fall asleep. So that's when I really started noticing it. And it would come in cycles to where I'd be tired for 2 or 3 months at a time, and then I'd be perfectly fine the rest of the year. And it got progressively worse and worse as, the years went on. I would go in and see doctors, and they would do a bunch of blood tests. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. After the exhaustion came, weird symptoms started popping up where my hands and my feet would go numb, my face would go numb. And then it would progress into like serious back pain. Like my lower back pain was pretty extreme. I had like a tremor for a couple of years in a hand. And so as the years went on, I just added more and more symptoms. The arthritis became pretty bad around 2011 or so. They had diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis, which obviously I didn't have. They put me on a bunch of meds for that, but didn't work. I started kind of pivoting my diet at that point to turn to like a paleo type lifestyle to see if that would help. And actually that helped immensely with the arthritis pain, which only lasted for so long until the symptoms progressively got worse and worse. But I would say around 2007 is when my symptoms really popped up.
And then when was it that you were finally diagnosed with the correct diagnosis?
2016.
And that diagnosis was?
Lyme disease.
And when you hear that, what do you think to yourself? Because you've been all this time, it's like, did you actually believe it? Because you got, arthritis, you got other things probably as well, and you were treated and you never knew. Were you like, oh, that makes sense? Or you're like, no?
I was actually, which is crazy, diagnosed by an ophthalmologist.
Okay.
And I had started having some vision problems late 2016. And I went in and, I had multiple doctors up to this point call me crazy. And I was like having a problem, like interpreting what I was seeing. There was like a delay in what I'm seeing versus when my brain started interpreting it. And I went in to talk to him, and he's like, he did a bunch of tests. He's like, there's nothing wrong with your optic nerve. You don't have any tumors. And I was like, he's going to call me crazy. And I looked at him before he even finished. I said, I know I sound crazy, but I swear this is what's happening. He goes, I believe you. Let's just sit and have a conversation. So we had like a 30-minute conversation about what I like to do in my free time. And I really love to hike. And I had actually just gotten back from Zion, and we had camped. And he goes, well, do you camp? I said, yeah. I mean, like occasionally where there aren't bears. I have a very serious fear of bears, which is a completely different story. But I said, only camp in the desert. And he's like, well, have you ever been tested for Lyme disease? And I said, yeah, I think I was tested a couple of years ago. And he goes, well, what kind of test? And I said, well, I don't know, whatever my doctor gave me, and it came back negative. And he goes, well, I think that we need to go a step further. If you were bit, 10, 12, 15 years ago, he's like, I don't think it's going to show up on a CDC approved test. So he sent me to like a third party lab, IGenix, based out of California, I think. And the test came back positive. And so once it came back positive, I started doing more research, and all of the symptoms I have where my arthritis constantly moved around, right? It's in my knees, it's in my hips, it's in my hands. They were never really like super hot, like just things that didn't match up with rheumatoid arthritis, but matched up more with Lyme disease. It's like, okay, well, this actually internally gut wise, it felt accurate. It felt like an accurate diagnosis. So knowing now, like your body's intuition has like your body will scream at you if something is right or if something is wrong, which I never really listened to before going through this entire process with innovative medicine. But now, like looking back, my body was like, that's right. And so the more research I did, the more I realized that this is accurate.
It's really interesting. I've spoken to so many people with Lyme disease, and they go misdiagnosed for so long. But it is that random person, the ophthalmologist, they're like, the friend you never met that had another friend that bumped into you and said, hey, did you ever look at that Lyme disease? And you just go, right. Really? Like, I never even thought of it. And then you realize, wow, that is what it is.